Welcome back, guys, to another Minecraft podcast. This is part 12 of the Origin Update series, where we talk about a possible update to early game, which ends when iron is obtained. We hold these voice chat sessions on our Discord server, and there are also text channels to brainstorm ideas or discuss virtually any topic related to Minecraft, so if you want to be a part of that, feel free to join. As before, the timestamps are in the description if you wish to jump to a specific conversation. Since this episode picks up right after the previous podcast, I'll be joined once again by Martijn de Backer.
Hello.
Unknown but awesome.
Hello.
And Volkan Vex will also be lurking around.
Saluton.
My name is Cameron, and this podcast will focus on deserts and the first night. Like, what grew into the idea of the Origin update for me? First I was thinking, we need a way to get wood in the desert, because when I started playing Minecraft PC Edition, I was playing with a friend, and for some reason he liked desert temples a lot, and he'd basically make a super flat world full of villages and temples, and I thought, there's no way to actually get wood or stone here. So that's kind of what sparked the whole idea. You should be able to, ideally, go into a complete super flat desert world and actually manage to, at least get to diamond.
Yes. Idea of like dead trees. That's actually what I was like. One of my ideas was.
But how would it get there?
And how would you make it renewable? That's the main problem.
That's a lot of that push.
One of the solutions could be the Oasis, again, palm trees as a source of wood, but that's not quite a good idea ever since the Oasis could be rare and not that many players would spawn nearby the Oasis. So I'm thinking maybe we can gather it from the cactus.
Well, I think the problem with adding an Oasis is it's not solving the scarcity problem of the desert. It's just saying, oh look, here's an Oasis. But still, if you're in all desert, and if you said if the Oasis is rare rather, then it would still be a problem. And I was thinking you could get wood from cacti, but I don't want it to be a complete reskin. Well, not reskin, but just I want it to be fairly different, especially in the way that it handles the first night, because before it was ruined by beds, of course. The first night was actually something.
It's not ruined. It should be a choice.
But first night's kind of like a tradition, like you first get into the game.
Bed before the first
but
night.
It's a tradition I hate.
Well,
the dirt house. Wow, what a good tradition.
Deal with it, mate. We all started out like that, and we all start out like that again when we.
Anyway, the first night you do have to cower in a hole at the first night because you can't punch sheep anymore.
Yeah, sometimes it depends. Like if, and that's the thing. Stretching out the early game, the player should have to go a few nights without sleep. But then, of course, that brings up the problem of the fountain. So either the player gets enough string from spiders to get enough wool to make a bed, which is how it used to be, I think. Possibly, I don't remember.
I think you punch a sheep.
I used to punch a sheep, yeah, but before that, I don't
sheep.
recall.
Drop its wool.
But now everything's kind of turned upside down. We don't know how to do, because we can't just revert it back to the way that it used to be, because then it would upset everything else.
Animal cruelty.
Yeah.
What?
Just punch sheep.
Oh, please.
Brutality.
Oh, don't bring up that. I've had so many arguments on the Discord about people screeching about animal cruelty. Why did we get so
Why
big?
do people care? Honestly, you don't want to promote bad behavior, but who believes if you punch a sheep, wool really falls off?
Still cruel.
I think, honestly, we are kind of blowing animal cruelty out of proportion. As I've said before, like, literally all they've said is riding dolphins is animal cruelty, and unofficially, there's no beneficial way to add a shark to Minecraft.
Yeah, but that's because they can't think of good ideas.
What?
That's how they came up with the drowned, honestly. Instead of so many cool sharks. When they say sharks, they think of open ocean sharks. But the reef sharks, they're so awesome. There's so many cool species.
A shark like mom, but like the drown's cool.
It lies on the ground, and it looks like a carpet because it looks like a flying carpet because it's got all these frills on the side of his body. And in that way, it can hide in the ground. It can just lay on the ground, and you barely notice it. Also, it's a really smart thing. Like, it can lie in front of a little cavern. Then at the end of the cavern, it will wag its tail, so that fish think it's safe to go into the cavern because they see another fish. At least they think. They go in the cavern, and the shark eats them.
Oh, that would be quite nice if it was adapted
It really
for the
blew
player.
my mind how smart the shark is.
Would be cool if they added a whole new ocean dimension dedicated to that sort of stuff. So you could have all these animals, and maybe taming could be a big mechanic as well. If you like learn how to adapt to the ocean life and like find your way around instead of just killing everything, you could try and learn how to adapt to it. That would be quite nice, and it would also complement the idea of water being something that's not as harmful but more harmony based.
Ecosystem.
Well, I do like it if the player wasn't the boss of everything. Like, oh, a wolf, let's tame it. Okay, now it's following me. Oh, a cat, let's tame it. Now it's following me.
Yeah.
Good. This is purely beneficial to me. But I would like it more like the dolphins grace. That's a really cool mechanic because you don't tame them, but you get to become friends with them. They feel like an actual animal.
There was one time where I was like swimming through an ocean, and a dolphin came up to me, and I swam with it like across an entire ocean. And then I got out of the water, and the dolphin did a little jump in the air and then swam off, and I just felt so touched. Honestly, like I kind of feel stupid saying that, but it's honestly how I felt.
Yeah, it should do a backflip when you leave it.
Well, I mean, it didn't
I
quite
guess
do a
that
backflip.
means
It's my time.
there is place for ambient mobs in the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on what you mean by ambient. Like, I was thinking of dolphins more as a utility mob. Well, not utility. It's what I've phrased it, but just any sort of mob that isn't technically tamed, but it's still useful when it's alive. But anyway, back to what started this. So I still feel like the first night should be something a player should have to at least, appreciate. Not necessarily because
Or
it's traditional. Not necessarily because it's traditional, but because just with everything else about the surface of the overworld, it's just not appreciated, the night. Because people just get a bed
I
and
think
go
we
to
should
sleep.
have the first night for the player to learn firsthand, like how to survive the thing, and also so they can get like a visual understanding of what happens during the night,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
It could serve as a sort of learn from experience.
A lot of trial, much more error.
Yeah, I mean, we should balance that. It doesn't have to be like, oh yeah, just chuck the player in the deep end every night. It doesn't have to be like that.
We have it in phases. What if the phase of the moon made it like the difficulty of the mob? So like if it's like a new moon, then it will be like no mobs, and then if it's like a waning crescent, like we'll have some mobs and they'll probably be very weak, and then you get like
Wouldn't it be the other way around? Because the new moon is when you can't see the moon at all, which means it would be the darkest, which means there would be the most mobs.
full moon, full moon having the most mobs, kinda.
I don't know how much
how it
role
works
the
with
moon
slimes.
plays with spawning rate. I know slimes already work on that. They're proportional to the phase of the moon.
Saying that like that this sort of thing it should be on all sort of like, well, not all, but like most mobs.
Well, I think enemies should spawn more commonly the less moon there is.
That would be interesting.
So
I think
you would
Phantom makes
feel
more
it
sense
is
in the
common.
moon.
What's
I
that?
think Phantom makes more sense in the moon phase rather than all mobs.
Yeah.
Cameron, what if the moon we see isn't actually a moon? What if it's actually the distant end island?
Possibly, although, I mean, they do kind of look similar, but I probably wouldn't say it is.
And
Can
stone
we-
is
Can we
more
make it?
yellow.
Yeah.
Well, there's a problem of Ender Outer Island with the end city and such. So it doesn't really look like a moon.
Yeah. I think that the end is in a
Like, it would
completely
only
other
look
dimension.
like the big one.
Yeah.
Unless the entire end is connected and not bunch of floating islands, then sure, it can be a moon, but in this case, since it's
Connected by invisible
separated
strings.
small islands, then doesn't really make sense.
I think the moon being equivalent to the end might impose a few too many limitations on us and might not be very consistent if we choose to ignore the limitations.
And it's also not fun.
Yeah.
It's much more fun to imagine multiple dimensions, not just traveling through one.
Yeah.
You kind of making the overworld less exciting because instead of a moon, it's just another dimension. It sounds amazing if that were to be our case, but it's much more interesting to actually think that the overworld has not just our planet, but it's also a lot of things we don't have control over, different planets we can't visit, but you just know there's more.
So, I mean, the first night is something that a player should be able to experience, and yeah, giving that sense of unease and like not necessarily being thrown into the deep end, but and kind of having that idea.
Uncertainty.
Yeah, uncertainty. That's probably a better way to put it. Just you're the sun's going down. You've heard that there are mobs coming out, and you're ready to experience it firsthand. The first night is something I feel like Minecrafters should experience just for the uncertainty and also like what it brings to the table. Like beds kind of made things a bit less urgent. Instead of trying to build an entire shelter, all you'd need to do is obtain a bed, and it kind of makes things a little less urgent and a little less exciting. You can just be, oh yeah, sure, I'll just sleep a bed, and magically while I'm sleeping no mobs will sneak up on me or anything.
Even though you don't have any doors or walls.
Yeah. Or even if
just
you're
a bed in the open.
Yeah, or if you're in a cave in the ground, it's weird. It's really weird. And I feel like there should be some sort of way to and like even if the first night shouldn't really consist of yourself locking yourself up boarding up the doors and locking yourself in a cave, which is why with the rest of the biome dependent progression I would like it to vary. And as I've said, in deserts it would be nice. I mean, people have said, oh, how about we get wood from cacti, and although it would solve the problem, I just feel like it's slightly uninspired, and there should be a step prior to getting wood. I mean, the desert is a lot more scarce, so it wouldn't really make sense for cacti to give you wood instantly. So I was thinking there could be a couple of times where you just have to go around and almost forage during the night for resources while you get mobs, and that's where the traps come in. So as I said before, there will be the 4 classic monsters: zombie, creeper, skeleton, spider. There will be variants of those. I don't know if I could drop some of the ones that aren't that important, but husk would stay as normal. There would be a spider. It could possibly be a scorpion. It depends on which one fits better. But the scorpion would drop stingers, and the creeper, the desert version of the creeper would be called the scrambler. And when it explodes, as I said before, it creates, instead of destroying blocks, it creates a mini sandstorm that kind of looks like lingering potions, but it's a lot thicker, and that blinds mobs. So with traps, you can instead of traps currently, they're usually used for redstone, either redstone or extremely basic and very unreliable. So I think that they should be more interesting and easier to set up in the early game. So for traps, you can strip. I'm not sure with an axe, but you can strip thorns off cacti, and there should also be a couple of plants so you can make it renewable. They wouldn't be too like alive, so there'll be one called scrub, and that's just a dry plant that spreads across the sand like carpet, and you can farm it. It would just be kind of like vines, except horizontal. So you can get that, and you can craft it into twine. And twine is a less reliable sort of string, because I was thinking, oh, why not use string? But then string, it's the sort of thing that would make bows, and bows can be enchanted to massive levels. And there's spiders. It's spider silk. Spider silk is ridiculously strong. So twine would be a sort of single-use type thing. Then there was also be sticks, which could help to like prop up the traps. Scramblers would drop sand pods, and when they fall or upon impact they explode into a mini sandstorm. And the stingers would be similar to spikes, except they'd be poisonous. So as you kill more zombies, well, not zombies, kill more monsters, and you get more loot, you can start to upgrade your traps. And not only do I want this so that the player can experience the first night, but I also want it so it can allow a completely new style of combat, designing traps. And also, since it's so expandable, you've just got these components. You've got the spikes, you've got the twine, and you can set up so many different ways of making things work. So not only that, but you could also have different tiers of traps, just like you have different tiers of weapons. So you could have iron spikes, which would be possibly they wouldn't break at all, unlike cactus spikes or thorns, which would only have one use. And for the really end game ones, you could even have guardian spikes, and you could do this. Instead of twine, it could be spider silk string, and that sort of thing.
Cool. How does it work if you don't have wood? How do you get a spikes? How do you get an axe?
Yeah, that's the bit that I'm worried about. Like, I feel like you should just be able to, I don't know, right click with an empty hand on cacti and pluck the thorns off it.
I think I've got a better idea.
Okay.
Cactuses should just damage you if you punch them.
Yeah, that works.
With your but only with your bare fists.
Okay.
So it's a really easy step. You just get some dead bushes, you get some sticks from that, then you use a stick to beat a cactus.
Oh yeah, that works.
You get 1 wood from 1 cactus, and you just put it in a crafting grade.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be too difficult.
But I would like the
Just
desert
get
to
some
be
wood.
more kind of in-world crafting type thing. Because, you're setting up these traps for the monsters, and you could bring
Yeah,
those
so a
down
lot
to
of
the
crafting recipes that are that can fit within the 2x2 grade instead of the 3x3 on the crafting table.
In the desert, I don't want a crafting table to something you can get immediately. Like, just think about how much time you use with a 2x2 crafting grid and the 3x3 crafting grid. Like, basically, the crafting table at this point is just an inconvenience.
Well, you should have one for doors.
What do you mean?
Well, to make doors, you need a crafting table, and for that you need cactus wood. And I'd say one cactus is 1 cactus wood. How many planks would that make? Or should cactus wood just function as planks?
I don't think so, because then it would be really hard to farm cacti. I mean, it would be automatic, sure, but it would just be annoying if you only got 1 plank.
Maybe 2 planks.
Possibly. I don't want it to be too inconsistent, though. Maybe if you strip it, it kind of looks like a stripped type block, and then from there it would logically flow that you'd get 4 planks from it.
Or just 4 planks from cactus by itself. So you can make an axe from it. But you still need axes and pickaxes, right? So you still need a crafting table. But for everything else that is specifically related to the desert, I do think you should just be able to craft on the spot.
Yeah, it would definitely kind of add to that nomadic style of the desert, because desert would be, since the shelters you can make with traps would just be a lot more temporary, you could kind of roam around and explore the desert.
The only thing that's really missing is doors. But if you can get wood, then you can get doors. But otherwise, you could just make a house out of sandstone with your bare fist. You can just gather the sand, make it into sandstone.
I feel like, yeah, there should definitely be a recipe to craft back into sand. I'm not exactly sure how, like, grinders are a pretty popular suggestion, but I don't know how much they'd be relevant, so there should definitely be a way to craft it back into sand, but I'm not exactly sure how.
Or if you can compress 9 diamonds into a diamond block, why can't you... and then you can make it back into diamonds. Why can't you also hack up sand out of sandstone?
Well, I mean, the 2x2 crafting recipes aren't usually reversible. The only 3x3 crafting recipe that is irreversible is nether wart blocks, for reasons that are completely nonsensical, might I add. But yeah, definitely there should be a way to reverse it so you get sand. Maybe an explosion could kind of loosen it up. Either that, I don't know, does it need a way to convert sandstone back into sand, or is the problem just renewable sand? Because in that case, maybe creeper scramblers could produce sand layers that would be similar to snow layers.
Well, no, it's just horrible if you craft a lot of it into sandstone. And then you're almost finished with the build, but you need some glass. But you only have sandstone left, and you have to get all the way back to the desert.
Yeah, fair enough.
That happens way too often. So you should just be able to craft it back. Just like that, easy.
Really? Are you sure there wouldn't be a way that makes a little bit more sense?
Well, no. It doesn't have to be.
It would still kind of be inconsistent if you're crafting sandstone back in to sand.
Why? I don't think there's a lot of blocks that can't be crafted back. See, I mean, there's also coarse dirt, but that's just 2 different blocks mixed instead of 1.
Yeah, Vex, how would you make sandstone craftable back into sand?
a hammer.
Yeah, but then that might
Wait, no, that wouldn't work.
like
That wouldn't
extend it
work.
too many blocks.
You make silt from crushing sand. Never mind.
How would you do it then?
I still like it to just be easy. Just, I don't know, bare fist.
Maybe
Just punch sandstone. Sandstone really isn't that hard. I mean, you could kind of turn it back into sand with your bare hands.
well, what you could
But
do
there's
is
different
like
types of sandstone, of course.
maybe it could drop 4 sand blocks when it's mined, and then you could just have it like a crafting, like a storage.
Use
thing.
a hammer. It makes it simple.
Although like clay blocks, they kind of drop 4 bits of clay, so sandstone could drop blocks of sand. Although it kind of sounds weird for one block to be dropping multiple blocks, but
Yeah.
it could work.
That was also what I was thinking about. But in reality, you just smash 2 bits of sandstone together and you get sand. So it's not that implausible.
That's a tough one because it shouldn't be too end game. Like there should be a fairly easy way to destroy sandstone, put it back into sand. It shouldn't be like too powerful.
Alright, so, should we talk about traps again?
Do you have
Or
anything to
something
add
more
to
exciting than sand?
it? Yeah, it's just one of those simple things that needs to be fixed. But yeah, well, main reason for adding traps was so you could expand it and like use it in caves. So I think traps would be useful for caves, especially how there's like limited space. So you could easily quite set a couple of traps behind you, just like put some spikes and mine them when you're done, things like that.
Like, you want to trap something? Use a boat.
Using that to trap mobs, it's not exactly what it's intended for, because like boats are traveling. It's just, and they added the ability to put mobs in boats, and now you can
Just because that's what it's not intended for doesn't mean it's not the best way of doing it.
But I still like
But,
better AI.
yeah,
and
cauldron-
better AI would be
Using
able to get back
cauldrons
out of
with
boats.
redstone.
Yeah, but that's redstone is a lot less survival focused use. I mean, like, just imagine if you're in real life and there's a zombie coming after you, and you're quick like, haha, he can't escape from this boat. I'm saved.
Oh well, yeah, I remember that. I put down.
It's not
Five
not real
boats.
life, and
Trap
real life
all the
doesn't have
creepers.
zombies.
Yeah, I know, but it's still got to make sense with itself, doesn't it? And it's still got to be intuitive also.
Quicksand.
I think Endergy has a version of Quicksand, and I feel like it's such a odd game mechanic that I feel like it would be fitting more in the end. I think in one of his suggestions is that this special type of, some special type of sand that can kind of pull you in, but like it doesn't pull you in like normally. It kind of forms around you, like it rematerializes. If you jump into it like really quickly, then it smashes and then reforms. So I think it kind of fits a bit better in the
Okay.
end.
Well, yeah, but that's.
How about we just have
Definitely not
oobleck? So basically, it's like water that you can walk on unless you don't move on it, in which case you
Cool. What is it? What does it do? What would it be useful for?
can be useful for.
Well, it's
What
just
would
a trap.
anything be useful for?
We were talking about traps. If you put sand on top of magma, it creates bubble columns, just like in water. But you just look at all the blocks above the magma will then be quicksand. So if you stand on it, you'll sink in it, and you can also swim in
Methane.
it if you. No, but if you stand on it, you sink through it slowly, and it also starts flowing if you put magma under it. So it's really cool for decoration as well, because it kind of becomes a source block, but instead of water, it creates sand. So you can get all this flowing sand, and you can even fill buildings with it. It's amazing for traps. Just open up in the wall, the room fills up with sand, and there's no escape.
That would be pretty cool, and I'm not sure if it's
the
Minecrafty though,
desert.
because I know that sand traps can kind of be made if you put someone mentioned double tall ferns, so you can. I think it was Nox, double tall dead bushes actually. So you place those, and then you put sand on top of them, and because of a glitch, when you destroy the double tall grass or any other like flower block, the sand doesn't actually fall. So that mechanic could be like made from not a bug but to a feature. It could be promoted to a feature, and then it could be used.
That's a really weird feature.
It's a what?
It's a really weird feature.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
Sometimes the
it-
quirks are gems.
Why not just make
And
nets out of string, and you could put something on top of it?
That'd be cool. I would like that too. I originally had a skeleton variant as well that would throw nets at you, and it could possibly be used to make that. Although then again, it could be made from twine or string once you get enough string.
Oh, so you could play. I mean, you could place it down, and then you could put sand on top of it, and then you remove one of the blocks, and the entire net just collapses.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. If there's some way to detect when a player is standing on top of it.
Why do we need wood in the desert?
To make no, not sticks. To make wooden tools, so you can make stone tools. So you can make a crafting table.
But we don't
Oh, wait,
need.
the steps are a bit weird.
Yes,
you have
but
to make a
we're
crafting table
using
first to
flint
make tools.
We use a crafting table that's not made out of wood. We should be searching for
Yeah.
solutions that do not revolve around this concept of wood. Maybe we should go a bit more abstract. You know, how about instead of finding ways that you get string in the desert, why don't we add twine?
Well, that's what I'm doing.
It's genius.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've said before that I think cactus wood is a tad uninspired.
But is it intuitive enough for the rest of the game? And how would you craft it? The crafting table.
Flint tools to obtain some cactus, and you can make a cactus crafting table.
So you use flint
Figure
to kind of
getting
strip the
stats wrong.
thorns off. Because like what we've talked about before, I think you weren't here, but we suggested that you smash the, why did I say smash? You break the dead bushes,
Smash.
and you get the sticks, and then you beat the cactus. Because we could make it so that if you mine a cactus, you take damage, but if you beat it with a stick, you don't. Or with any other thing that isn't your bare hand, and then you can
flint knife.
get the wood from there.
A knife instead of a stick.
Oh yeah, you could potentially use flint for that, but how would you get flint in the desert?
Actually, the way you get flint anywhere else in the world except for the gravel method. Finding it on the ground. Hashtag Project Vex.
I don't know. Finding things just like that lying on the ground might be a bit weird.
No, never. You're a bit weird. And
Thanks.
everyone loves you.
Yep, that's because I'm abnormal. Anyway, thank you all for listening. Make sure to check out our Discord, subreddit, and Twitter. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. This marks the last podcast on the Origin update, but it is only just the beginning. The Village and Pillage update seems to be very similar to the Origin update, but depending on how the rest of it pans out, especially the improvements to trading, there's plenty of content left to develop. Feel free to add your own ideas via the subreddit and the Discord. We've also got several video essays planned, so if you subscribe and hit the bell, you'll see those later. Until next time, stay abnormal.